Yes, yeah. There's like a kendama, like an
Oh,
Eden
Ganama, of
kendama,
course.
and then they made Eden manga too, which is kind of cool. Like they,
Wow.
and my name is actually on the manga.
Because
That's
Eden,
crazy.
it's your
Was my
idea. It's
original,
your
yeah, my original
original.
idea. Yeah,
That's
which is like, yeah, I did help. I mean, I did come up with the original idea, and then I worked with a manga artist and a publisher, and they would send me like every time they had like a new version, they would show it to me, and I'd check it and give them comments and stuff. They're really cool. They're great to work with. But yeah, like it's kind of surreal. Like
yeah.
I can't believe there's a
I can
manga
imagine that.
in Japan. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They really tried. Netflix, they really, really were so supportive of Eden, and they really like they went all out on the marketing for that. And like there was a poster in Shibuya Crossing, and
Oh.
they were like in yeah, there's an Eden poster there. There's also they took over an entire subway car and with all Eden advertisements on the subway car. So yeah, they really went they did everything on
Mm.
that one. Unfortunately, it wasn't like a huge hit, but I still
I
learned a
watched
lot.
it when it was released, and I really like
Okay.
it. Um,
Oh, thanks.
and I think I watched it with my kids. They like it, and the then I read later, like uh, I read reviews on Eden. Like people was talking like really good. Like this is how you say, like a gem that you should discover, or like the people is
Mm.
little by little discovering and making comments, because I think it was pretty recent when I saw some of the comments like, oh, you should check this one and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's hard for like original. There's a few things I think that were hard with that maybe made it difficult for Eden to kind of break out. One is like original ideas, like new ideas are difficult because it's not an established brand, and there's like so much things to choose from online now. It's
Mm.
like people will typically go to something that they're familiar with. The like, and so that's why we see a lot of big properties, doing shows and stuff. That's
Yes.
one. Also, I think like we were only 4 episodes, so people that want to watch series, they might think, "Oh, that's too short." If they liked after the 4 episodes, they might feel frustrated because there's not enough episodes. And then, I think it's actually, yeah, I think it may have been better as a film format versus the 4 episodes because
Mm.
then people would know there's like it's a complete story. But
Mm.
yeah, I think those are some of the challenges, and I think like Eden was kind of one of the it was a designed to kind of appeal to like a global audience. I mean, I was trying to go for like a Spielberg plus Ghibli,
Mm.
80s Spielberg with like kind of a Ghibli sensibility. And I think like it's kind of somewhere in the middle where I think like the hardcore fans, it's not maybe anime enough for the hardcore anime fans, and maybe it's too anime for the non-anime fans who don't know much about anime. So it kind of might be hard for a larger audience to gravitate towards it because
But
it's
my
kind of like
humble
in
opinion was that
there.
it was great, because it's not like what you said. It's a weakness. I for me, it's one of the strongest point. It's not.
Oh.
It's very unique.
Yeah,
And
well, that's what I mean. That's what I was trying to do. I mean, that's what I wanted to do, but I think, I think it's just hard to compete in a sea of
mhm.
choices, and attention spans are so short that
Mm.
you have to like, and so like Eden kind of starts out kind of a slower pace in the beginning, and the story I think really it is best watched in one sitting.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I think like that slower pace. There's it's hard to catch. People will just like if you don't grab someone's attention like
Mhm.
viciously, they'll just like go off and look at something else. Like it's
Uh,
hard. It's hard to keep people's
do,
attention nowadays. So
do you think? I like the slow burning. Maybe.
yeah, I do too. I mean, I like kind of something that has like a slower like not like it eventually gets it doesn't have to
Mhm.
just jump at you right away. We
Mm.
added that fight sequence in the beginning to try to get people into it.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's a little bit of a slow burn in the
Yeah.
beginning.
For
So
me, I have to confess that I when I has been some time. when was released? More than a year.
21, I think. Originally, it was supposed to be released in 2020, but
Mm,
then we delayed it a year because of COVID.
I
The
see.
voice actors couldn't record, so
Uh,
we had to. It kind of threw a little bit of a wrench in the marketing plans
mm-hmm.
because they had so many things planned. They had the VR. There was like an Eden VR experience, and they were gonna do all this stuff, but
I,
unfortunately, yeah,
for me, the memorable like images that it's more on the fields, the apple trees fields, and this part that are
yeah,
very cool, like very like I really enjoy that part one of the most, because I don't know, I felt like, I don't know, some peace, some equilibrium there.
yeah, yeah. It was like, yeah, we wanted to kind of create this world that was beautiful and that the robots were created and what would life be like in a world without humans and it kind of asked the question like is the world better off without humans and so yeah, I mean it was so much fun and I just had it was such a learning experience and I just yeah, it was a really really fun
Mm.
project to work on. But yeah, it was I think the other thing too that is a bit difficult for some fans to accept or to embrace is CG or what they would call CG anime or anime.
Mm.
Fans really nowadays react negatively if they can feel it's 3D or they're like, oh, I don't want to watch
Yeah.
this. And so there's people have a bias against it. So we did put a lot of work. It was like it was a it wasn't like a huge, I mean, I'd say like the budget was fair, given the that it's a new property and everything, and I'm very grateful for what we had for sure. But there are limitations within what we had, so we just did the
Mm.
best that we could. We tried, like we
Yeah.
did things like on that we were using on the Peanuts movie, which were the character views, where from a particular angle the hair
Mm-hmm.
switches or the rig changes. So
Mm.
we tried to use those techniques, and CGCG was really great at working with us on that. So we did try
Yeah.
as best we could,
Yeah,
but
but
yeah,
I know the anime hardcore fans are very harsh with
yeah,
CG cell shade anime.
yeah.
My experience on the movie we did for Netflix, also the this was the Altered Carbon, the
Oh yes, Altered Carbon. Yes, yeah,
the 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 some of the reviews I read it on the trailer, that I was very eager to see what the people opinion on that. And it was it was
it's
tough
pretty
to
brutal.
read
Yeah,
that. Like some were very
yeah.
brutal, and well, you can agree or not, but I mean, you need to
It's
be
like
fair also with
I
this.
feel
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I feel like with CG anime, you have to work twice as hard
yeah,
to make it acceptable enough for
mm.
fans. Like Orange is a
Yeah.
studio
I
that I
was
think
about to
people
say it.
respect. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
they earn the respect. I think,
yeah, you got to push
yeah,
it really far.
yeah. In for instance, in anima we had a also it very unique, distinctive look. I mean, if you see some CG anime from anime, you probably can notice that
Mm,
it try to have this point of distinction. But like you said, like Orange, they nail it. Like it was more like flawless. You cannot see the difference. That it's another approach. So you can. I mean, it's all good. Like going for the people will not notice, or we do something different that it's a bit more risky, and but at the
yeah.
same time I think it's distinguish the projects from one to another, that it's also a good thing.
Yeah, you basically have to exceed 2D animation in order for it to be accepted. Like whatever you create has to look better,
Mm.
or at least like unnoticeably CG, and that's a lot of work to do.
Well,
And
yeah,
so
but
yeah, it's
I think
tricky.
now that like in here in Japan, unless in Japan, there are mm, unless a good bunch of studios, they are doing really nice works, really cool, and like in terms of animation, like, and shading and looks, like the styles,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you
it's definitely
probably
getting
know better
better.
than me, but there are like uh I don't know, some people that
There's
comes from to my mind at Kamikaze Doga,
Sanjigen, yeah,
Sanjigen.
Kamikaze Doga, Sanjigen,
Polygon Pictures is doing some really
Graphinica,
great stuff.
Polygon, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Anima of
They're
course,
definitely getting better. And
and
Orange, yeah,
many others that probably I'm cannot remember now, but
yeah.
yeah.
And I think I think a lot of it is the fact that I mean one of the reasons why I think we're seeing more CG anime is that the it is just getting it's harder to get skilled 2D animators. It's just getting harder and harder, especially if you're a new
Mm,
studio. Typically,
yes.
the younger generation isn't quite replenishing
Yeah.
as it should, and because of a lot of reasons like economic reasons and work
Yes.
life balance, there's lots of reasons why. Unfortunately, and that's something personally I would love to try to like fit or help make improve, but that's it's difficult. Yeah, it's but so I
Yeah.
think like they're trying to figure out like how can we continue to you know
Yeah.
grow the next
Definitely.
generation.
Yeah. I think, and it's true. The in terms of we talking, I, I did my at the beginning of my career, I did work on 2D. I did in campaign because at the time in Spain, or at least in Valencia, where I was, where I born and was living, there was not 3D animation at all. The studios. So I wanted to work in animation. So the thing I found was 2D. So you know how to handle a computer? Yes, of course. So in campaign, that was like filling
Yeah,
the
yeah,
you know
yes,
and passing the sheets on the from the paper to
yeah.
software.
The
That
X
is really,
sheets, yeah, all
yeah,
that stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that was.
Those
And
are the good old days.
it was super. I mean, in terms of production, I think for a good, you can basically produce better or with a higher budgets in CG with a good quality than in 2D. In 2D, to get the
Hmm.
quality, it's I think it's nowadays it can be much more expensive, and that's, I think, economic reasons. That's the reason, because animators in 2D now, they had, from time to time you see these news as they're exploded or underpay or big issues
Yeah,
here in Japan, and yeah, it's because I guess, well,
I think it's in some ways 2D is definitely can be more cost effective, but I think if you want the highest quality, if you just want that top quality talent, yeah, that's where it just gets difficult to find those people. And I think it's just it's one of the challenges, I think.
mm,
But yeah, there's certain efficiencies. I think it allows more people to, you don't have, if you rig a character, you can reuse it and shots. That
yeah,
helps certainly. But yeah, there's other overheads too in terms of pipeline and asset
yeah,
management and things that
yeah,
aren't whereas like 2D is very simple. You can just draw on the paper in the envelope
yes,
and pass it to the next person. So
yes,
there
that's
there's some
true.
nice efficiencies, yeah,
Yeah, if
on
you
that
need
side.
200 different characters, probably 2D is more
Yeah,
efficient.
just like draw the characters or paint the backgrounds. Like that's one thing I really liked about on Eden. We painted all of the backgrounds.
uh,
We had a very systematic approach for Eden where we were like, we have this number of shots, 80%. I'm trying to remember the breakdown. I think it was like 75% are locked camera,
mhm.
and then 10 the 20% is
Uh,
20% is like a 2D pan, and then 5% were like full CG shots. So the director was like, when he was making the animatic, was counting and making sure that we had exactly those numbers because that's all that the budget would allow for. So we had to like
but it's
strategically,
very smart.
yeah,
I
yeah,
I know by experience that not always like that, and
yeah.
sometimes
We were
it's the other
lucky,
way
yeah,
around. Like some people ask, and then like, and you try to do, and there is where it comes this these adjustments between budget and scheduling and reality. Like,
yeah. And like that's one of the things because we were working with CG on the animation. They did, they did the Clone Wars. I worked with them when I worked at Lucasfilm for the Clone Wars, and they are super organized and they always deliver on time. And that's how they're able to do that is because they're very careful about, okay, if you
mhm,
want this, it has to be like this. These are your rules,
yes,
these are the parameters, and we can't veer from that. if you do, then it's going to put everything else at risk. So we have to like stick to that. And so yeah, that worked in terms of the delivery, and we were able
Nice.
to deliver the show on time.
That's great. The but now let's rewind a little bit because
Okay.
after before starting the recording, I was talking like one of the goals of this podcast is to well to to inform or to put information for everybody like like a little bit how works the animation industry right now, like in terms of getting a project to a finished port from the inception. And I was very interested in talking to you because, well, first I know, and this is like the background that we have both. You were a rigger. I'm still a rigger, so it's kind of like, and we were talking before, like like you had these like heartbreaking moments. I
Heartbreaking.
did
Yeah.
had that
Yeah.
also, and I feel
Yeah.
like we had kind of similar paths in different countries maybe, but
Yeah.
the so you started, like, how you started to how you decide, okay, I want to produce or I want to create my own stuff. It's something that you always wanted to do from the beginning, and just rigging was something that
Yeah.
happened on the path, or how
Yeah.
I'm just very curious, how do you
Yeah. It's
start it
just,
and everything like
yeah.
that.
I think like, it kind of, I have to kind of go back to my early childhood and the things that influenced me. But like, I grew up, my father was owned a video store, and he used to be a film projectionist too. So we had a 16 millimeter projector in our basement, and he had like a 16 millimeter edit bay there as well.
Wow.
He collected like animated cells. He had like these Disney clips, Disney animation like reels that he had collected. So he would like show those to me as a kid. And so I grew up around animation and movies, and I just always loved those so deeply. And so when I went to college, I originally wanted to be a Disney animator. I wanted to be a hand, so I
Mm-hmm.
studied, at the time, like I didn't really prepare, so much for college. I was, but my heart was definitely on the creative side, like drawing. I did performing arts. I studied dance and voice. I was definitely, all the things that interest me were on the creative spectrum. And so it's kind of like the towards the end of my high school, my senior year, I learned that, oh, I have to do figure drawing to be good. So I enrolled in some local figure drawing classes, and I applied to Cal Arts and different schools, and no one was interested in me except the Ringling School of Art and Design. So
Mm-hmm.
I went to this portfolio day. I mean, it was kind of, speaking of the heartbreak, this is part of the lessons you learn, But I had no experience. My parents weren't really experienced in like, what you're supposed to do when you have an artistic career or anything. And so, like, for example, when I submitted to CalArts, I basically rolled up all my figure drawings in a tube and just like mailed it to them. There was no like nice presentation or anything. But anyhow, I just felt like if someone would just give me a chance, I know I could do it. Just, it's just hard to
Mm-hmm.
convince someone if you don't have anything. So I enrolled to this the summer program right after graduation. And I felt like if I did that, I could go there and show that I'm capable of doing this stuff. So I went there and I just worked really hard, and after I went there, I was able to get in. I sort of got shortlisted on their wait list, and I was able to get into the school next year. And then I studied illustration for a year, because I wanted to be an animator, and that's what Disney was telling everyone to do. And then as I got there, I saw they had this really cool computer lab, and I didn't really know that at the time Ringling was famous for computer animation. And I was like, because I also like computers growing up too. I had like all the game systems and all the
Mm-hmm.
computer, like I had lots of that stuff growing up. So I love technology. And so I was like, can I use those computers? And they're like, no, you have to be a computer animation major. And I was like, okay, well, so I had to like stay another year in college. I switched to computer animation, and I started learning that stuff. And I was still focused on drawing and like visual development. And then I got after I graduated, or before I graduated, I got an offer from Chris Wedge came down to interview students, and he interviewed me, and he actually hired me at Blue Sky because he wanted me to do visual development for feature films and just concept designs and things like this because that was kind of my interest. So when I got there, I was actually there to replace someone who had just left. His name was John Cars, who would go on to like direct Paper. Was it Paperman? The one, the Disney
Yeah,
short.
I was about to say this
Yeah, I
name.
think that.
It's very familiar for me. Yeah.
Yeah, he's. I think he's very well known. He was someone that at Blue Sky had like the animation chops and the technical chops. He could like launch, CGI studio renders, no problem, and then animate stuff like that was kind of. And I also did lots of things like that too in college, like
Mhm.
and so I think like but those were really big shoes to fill, like to go somewhere and like there's this legend that you're like, supposed to like replace. So I had a lot of anxiety about that. And I always felt like this expectation I could never live up to. That was one of the challenges, like when I came to Blue Sky. So I started as an animator. I worked on a short film called Bunny, which won an
Oh,
Academy Award. I was an animator on that.
I remember
And then
that one.
I did texture maps, and I was doing storyboarding. I was like doing character. There's a time where Blue Sky was going to do Titan AE. It was called Ice Planet, and it was going to be Blue Sky's first feature film.
Hmm.
And so they
That's
hired.
a
I was
Don
doing all
Bluth
the
one. No.
yeah, the Don Bluth one. Yeah, they did in Phoenix. Originally was a 3D film, and I was actually designing all the characters. I was doing all the lead characters, and I storyboarded I actually ended up storyboarding the final sequence of the film. But yeah, we were doing that at one point, and then they're like, well, we're gonna make it in 2D and send it to Phoenix, and we're gonna make Ice Age the first feature. And so I'm trying to remember, like, I don't really remember the timing exactly, but Eden Blue Sky had a pitch fest where they opened. It said, everyone at the company, you can pitch your ideas for a feature
Yeah,
film
I've
that
been there
we're
in
working with
Marsa.
Fox.
We had that
So
same in Marsa.
okay, yeah. So there's like a pitch fest, and it was their first one, and so I submitted my idea, which was like, I think the pitch was like, in a world devoid of human life, a pair of robots find a human child or something. That was kind of the pitch line, the log line, and so they picked mine out of there was two other ideas they picked, but mine was one of those, and so I was doing all these things. I was also working on my own personal short film. I was just like, at that time, my goal was I just want to be a director. I want to create. I want to tell my story. I'm so excited. This is great. And so they did. They hired some writers. Fox hired some writers, but I wasn't actually. They sort of. The idea was sort of taken, but I really wasn't. I didn't feel too involved after that process. Like,
Hmm.
I would maybe submit notes, but I wasn't sort of at like the as far as I remember, I mean, maybe I'm getting old. I don't remember, but I don't remember being in any of those meetings so much. And then I remember one day, Chris Wedge came into my office and he says, "I'm so sorry, but we decided that we're not going to move forward with this project." And I was like really heartbroken because I was so excited
I
uh,
can imagine.
to work on it. So that was one thing, and then I was also working on a short film at the same time
Hmm.
called The Dying Wind, and I had got like the whole team together. Everyone was like super excited to work on it, and then like I decided, because I was young and naive and kind of like just I had no idea how things work. I had like this kind of like coincidental family connection to this guy named Bill Mechanic, who used to be the head of 20th Century. And the story is he used to work for my dad, like back at Michigan State University, many, many years ago. So at that time, it was just sort of like a connection from school. And so I had, he is someone that I would just write for advice every now and then. And I wrote a letter. I said, hey, Bill, do you mind, this guy didn't want to use my idea. So do you mind if I like, if I can I make it, because like, and so I think I'm not sure of the intention. I think it was he had good intentions, but he gave it to Chris Melandandri, who was running Blue Sky at the time, and then Chris Melandandri gave it to Chris Wedge, and that was just an explosion of anger towards me because I could completely sidestep the. And at that time, they were thinking about making a deal with Fox, and it was like I was put on probation for 3 months. I almost lost my job.
Oh.
It was like that was it kind of like, and I remember I had this moment at the studio with Chris Wedge, who had hired me, who was someone that I always, like saw as like a mentor. I always looked up to him as someone who was so great at animation and everything like that, and had done so much with Blue Sky. But and I just remember this moment quite clearly where he's like, we were just trying to figure out what my role is or what my place is in the company. And then he was like, "Do you want to do story or do you want to do rigging?" Like, because I was also, while I was there, I had been teaching myself Maya. At that time, Maya was
Mm-hmm.
in beta, the first version of Maya. And so I actually, before I got there, it was all Softimage.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of helped them transition to, I'm sorry, Softimage, but I helped them transition from Softimage to Maya. So I was the one that's my
Hi
fault.
there.
Ironically, I would go work for them. Ironically, I'd work for Softimage later. Um, but I was partially, so I had this knack for technology and I loved solving problems. It was another kind of creative expression, I guess. I don't know, I could figure it out pretty easily. And they needed help. The animators needed someone that could be dedicated to rigging. At that time, the animators used to make their own rigs, but
Mm-hmm.
we actually started, myself, Mark Peretti, and Dave Gallagher actually made the first rigging department at Blue Sky. And so that was kind of fun. And so what we basically, yeah, so I was doing this rigging thing. I was kind of good at it, and then there's like this decision: do you want to do rigging or story? And I'm like, I just want to do rigging because like my heart is broken. I can't like, I can't go through this again. It was such a painful experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wasn't used to, I was young in my early 20s and I didn't really know how things work. And there's like, there's a huge line of people like that really want to tell their stories that have been, doing things for 20 years or, 10
Mm-hmm.
years,
Yeah.
and some people will have maybe connections or
Mm-hmm.
advantages that can help them start faster, but they still will need the talent. But so there's variables. I didn't really have anything. I had to, just make my own path. So I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna do rigging, and then that kind of set my whole trajectory off on this technical path. So I was basically a rigger for three years at Blue Sky from that point on, and then later I got the opportunity to go to Japan, which was always a dream. But I guess like, yeah. So anyway, that was kind of what set me off on that path of becoming a rigger was that experience. But
Okay.
I always wanted to, like, my heart was always on the creative and making stuff and telling stories. Like that's always been my real passion. And so, yeah, so that's what happened there. And there's other, yeah, and then there's the whole, then I managed to get to Japan, and that came about actually through Bunny because I had worked, on that film. I decided to put a trip. I gathered a trip with some friends. I gathered like some friends, and we went on a trip to Japan. And so that was like 1998, and because Bunny had won the Oscar, I used that as kind of an excuse to visit studios.
Mm-hmm.
So we managed to set up a meeting with Studio Ghibli, and we met with Miyazaki, and we talked with
Wow.
him for like 3 hours in his like the pig house, the Butaya, and he was working on the Ghibli Museum, and he had all of these like watercolors on the wall, and it was just
Mm-hmm.
like it was one of
Yeah.
those moments I was like, oh my God, this is like
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. I mean, it was so cool. But yeah, we went to Production IG. I met Oshi Mamoru. I met Ishikawa-san. I went to what else? I met with Shuzo-san when he was at Dream Pictures. I met Mike Arias, who was a very, early pioneer of
Yes.
foreigners that would go to Japan and work. I mean, he was always been someone that's really
Yeah.
inspiring to me, his story.
Yeah.
And then that kind of led to the opportunity for me to go work in Japan, and that's how that happened.
That's amazing. Yeah. So I was checking your LinkedIn, like doing my homework here. So you went,
Mm.
so you started on Blue Sky, but then you had like a few years that you went Japan and other companies, and you
Yeah, yeah.
started to do also like associated producer in some point, and you went back. Oh no, this is sorry. I'm just jumping here.
I do a lot of
But
jumping
you went
around,
back
yeah,
again
everywhere.
to Blue Sky after a few
Yeah.
years, but also after that point, you double your thing. So you kept doing your technical stuff as a production engineer and then rigging supervisor, but at the same
Mm-hmm.
time you had the other I don't know if you can say like passion projects or like something that
Yes.
you probably needed to do as a personal
Yes.
level, like
Yeah.
the short films that you produced it with
Like Kick Heart and
yeah
Under the
Masaki
Dog
Yuasa,
and
yeah, and
yeah. Yeah, like I think, rigging, like I said, like I always enjoyed rigging it. And it's like when I went back to Blue Sky, I originally was a senior production engineer working building pipeline tools, and then they asked me to be the rigging supervisor because I had the rigging background. And so I sort of took that job on, and so I was supervising the department for several years. I think it was like from 2009 to 2016, I think was the number of years. So I supervised a lot of films at that time. But as that kept going longer and longer, I felt like my passion was always like, I love Japan. Also, I wanted to, like, I miss Japan. I just, like, there's the financial realities of, for me, that was difficult about living in Japan, and working for a company there. So, but I was always torn. Like, my heart and passion was always like, I was so happy at IG, and I was so inspired all the time. I was very poor, but I was very happy at the same time. So I was always thinking about how can I get back there, and another thing too is, like, because I had these relationships that I built over the years in Japan, I would find a lot of people would come to me and ask for help, or if there's a Hollywood, like, there was a point where I was at Lucasfilm, and during that time someone approached me about helping to negotiate live action rights for Akira and Ghost in the Shell with Paramount, with a producer named Lorenzo de Bonaventura. So I was helping out, although it didn't work out with that producer. I did help with that sort of thing. And I kind of, like, I really just started enjoying that part of that experience, like
Mhm.
trying to do the business side, and like trying to, like, figure out how to connect the people. Like, that was like my first little taste of kind of what I did a little bit of suit, like, kind of producing on Kill Bill slightly, where I
Mhm.
was like just assisting with the international business, and met with Quentin Tarantino and all that
Oh,
stuff, and the producers.
wow,
That was pretty surreal. That was funny too. Like, I remember we were in the hotel lobby of the Ebisu Hotel, and Quentin was brainstorming the animated sequence with the assassin in, I think it's in Colombia, I think, where there's like a politician in the car with, like, two girls in bikinis, and then Lucy Liu's character is, like, on the roof with a sniper rifle, and, like, just like he described, like, and then the bullet comes from the gun, it goes, we follow it, and we go into the car, it goes through the politician's head, and then he leans forward, and there's a hole in his head, and then then we look up from the hole in the head, and the two girls, like, look down, and like, it was just like, it was so cool. I mean, I had a lot of those type of experiences. Like, I met with Jeff Katzenberg as well for Innocence. There's just so many. I could probably just do a podcast on just all of the stories that happened in Japan, but yeah, it was really inspiring. But I just love getting involved in that part of the business. And then I just had the idea, and at that time Kickstarter was kind of popular in
Mhm.
crowdfunding, and I just thought, like, maybe this would be a great way for me to maybe try to make something with IG. And so Ishikawa-san, who was the CEO of IG, was in New York for, like, a festival, and I said, "Hey, I would love to make a crowdfunding project here. This is how it works, and can we make some anime?
Mhm.
And or can I make a project with you? I don't know what it is, but I just want to make it." He's like, "Yeah, how about, would you like to work with Masaki Iwasa?" I was like, "What?" It's like, "Of course." He's like one of my favorite. I love Mind Game,
Yeah, yeah.
and
It's
he
my
just
game.
happened
It's
to
my
be.
all times favorite movie.
Oh, really? Oh,
No
cool.
life. I mean, between everything like animation, live action, like my favorite. Period. I still I think I
Yeah,
have it there. This special. Wait a second. I just want to.
it's great. Oh, that's cool.
I hope it's not falling this apart. That's
Oh yeah, I have that one. Yeah.
that
Did
one
you also sign
with
it?
the
Did
storyboard.
you also
No,
sign it?
no, I don't have it.
Oh.
Um, Sadly, not. But it was funny. I got this one. I bought the regular DVD, and when I visit, I don't know when, 2005 or something. I don't remember. And
Yeah.
then next day I went to Mandarake and I found this one that was super expensive. I don't remember like how much. Back then for me was like super expensive.
It's probably like $120 or something like
I
that.
don't know.
Yeah.
And I immediately got that one, so I ended up with 2 copies in today.
Oh, yeah. I have that same one too. Yeah.
Oh, it's
I
my
think yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, I love
yeah.
that. And I remember, just like and Mind Game was kind of legendary too, like because I don't know if you know Rodrigo Blas. Do you know
Not
Rodrigo
personally,
Blas?
but I
Okay.
know him. Yeah.
It was really cool because like at Blue Sky has such an interesting history. Like Enrico Casarosa was there, Dice was there, Rodrigo was there, and we were all like fans of Japanese animation. I remember like they moved to Pixar. They were all in the Bay Area. I think we flew just to hang out and see them. And one night I remember it was Rodrigo, Dice, Enrico, myself, and some of the friends, and we all watched My Game together. We were just like, "This is amazing!"
Yeah.
So, and they would all go on to do like really cool
Yeah.
things. But yeah,
I watch once a year. I have unless one I watch it one time, and
oh
I want
really?
to
Oh,
get
that's good.
the Blu-ray. The good. I think there's a one in Blu-ray now.
Oh, interesting. I should get
I
that
think
too.
maybe I'm just making this
Yeah,
up, but
yeah. I think there is one, but yeah. So yeah, so that's so I basically, I did Kick Hard. That was a success. I would call that producing light because after doing Eden, I realized, oh, this is what producing really is. It's
mhm,
like it's one of those terms that can encompass so many different things, and it
yeah.
can someone's name could be producer. They could do nothing, or they could do everything, or they could do something very specific
Mhm,
and not cover this other thing. So it is a very sort of amorphous term in terms of like the responsibilities that means.
mhm,
So in the case of Kickcard, I was mostly just getting the project started, managing the project, getting managing the community, talking to all the backers.
mhm,
Whereas IG was handling the real producing when they were looking at the budgets and all the agreements and all the business side of things. But yeah, so I think I was really happy with Kickheart. It's unfortunate. I
yeah.
would love to make more. I wish it was.
Yeah.
I would have liked to
I
make a
I
TV series out of
baked
it.
that one, but I I don't know what I did with my DVD copy. I had the T-shirt. I remember I give it away the T-shirt and
Oh,
like to a friend and but I don't know what I did with my copy. Shame on
oh, I
me.
might have an extra one around. I can
No,
save
don't
for you
worry.
if you want.
I should. But
Yeah.
the yeah, I think the first time we crossed emails was on that. I mean, without knowing we will cross paths again, because
Yeah.
I think you
Yeah.
were looking for help to translation to for the subtitles, and I asked my
Oh,
wife,
yeah. Probably.
do you,
Yeah.
I'm very fan of. I want to just help these people. Do you mind if I offer you to it's a to help with the translation? But at the end, I think you have it that cover and it was not needed. I remember you replied
Yeah,
to me like saying,
probably.
"Oh,
Yeah,
thank
it was
you,"
like, yeah,
something like that.
yeah. That
Okay.
was really fun, and I think like I did get permission from Blue Sky to do that, so they were very nice to let me do that while I was working
Mm,
at Blue Sky. But yeah, as I did those things, I realized like, gosh, I really love this stuff. I would love to do more of it, and it's a different. It wasn't something that I had originally thought of, but it's very close to my heart and my passion. So while I was at Blue Sky after Kickheart, I felt like I tried to like connect with the development executives and be like, look, I love this stuff. I would love to help. I produce a short film. I'm very eager to learn and please share your knowledge. But what I learned is like they were friendly, people were friendly, but they weren't necessarily eager to no one really took me under their wing as I was hoping they would. And so what I learned, I guess what I started to learn is this, like that I have had to make my own path for anything that I want to do in life.
mhm,
It doesn't matter. It doesn't necessarily matter if I know someone even. It's like I have to make my own path. So from that, I kind of like I decided, in 2016, I was supervising at Blue Sky, and I was just like I reached a point where I was like I just was losing motivation. I was just not happy because my heart was not really my passion was really in this, and I wasn't quite sure how I was gonna figure it out. But I decided to leave and just like I just need to make the jump and leave and try to figure it out. So what I really want to do. And so I left in 2016. And then I for a brief time I was trying to do a startup, and I wanted to make like this real-time story engine. Like
Mm-hmm.
I worked with a developer in Brazil, and we were making a custom version of Unreal that was suited for movie production and stuff. And I wanted to make like this universal rigging sort of
Mm-hmm.
software, but unfortunately that didn't materialize. And because I think I'm a lousy salesman for getting investment, it's like I'm just not good at
I,
that stuff.
do,
There's just not my
yeah,
cup
I
of
think
tea.
the
So
it's not that. I mean, developing software, especially software for animation, I think it's a very tough business. Really
yeah,
difficult
there's not a lot of
market.
there's not a huge upside for it. So it's like
Yeah.
it's great. One of the things I admired about George Lucas and working at Lucasfilm was that he could just make a tool because he felt like it. He's like, you know what, I want to change the storyboarding. So so he made like ILM's proprietary 3D applications called Xeno. And so he's like, let's make a front end like a for artists to make story. And like, so his idea was that they wouldn't have to storyboard. They could use this tool. Anyone non-technical could just drag and drop the assets. They had the timeline, they could just do coverage. They had the sets, they had all the assets. And so they would build all these proxy rigs and everything. And then I built a system that that basically made a rig that was, that worked with the Xeno rigs. So you could export an entire sequence and have all the Maya shots recreated like instantly. So yeah, like he could just make that software because he had the resources, and he just
Mhm.
did it because he wanted to make it better. He wasn't trying to really make money off of it. So I hope someday I can get to that point where I'm like, I just want to build a better tool and not worry about, that sort of thing. But yeah, it was really interesting. But yeah, so I tried to get that going, and that didn't work. So I was like, well, why don't I try? Let me try Silicon Valley. There's also stuff going on there, a lot of activity. I had some friends that went there. I wanted to kind of just try that out and see. And so after I quit Blue Sky, I went to that game company
Mhm.
called MZ Games. I was a
Mhm.
technical artist, just
Mhm.
building, and it was a great place to work. And they had like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they had like free massage like every month. They
Wow.
they gave you like $100 for your phone bill. I mean, it was just like luxury, and the people were all really nice and cool, and it was a great workplace. I really liked my boss, but it just, I didn't really have a passion for that thing that we
Mhm.
were making. And so again, I was like struggling to find the motivation, even though the people were great and, everything, the experience was very positive. Just my heart wasn't quite in it. And so around that time, kind of like coincidentally, I reached out to Sakurai-san, who used to be a writer on Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex when I worked
Mhm.
at Production IG. He had just become the producer at Netflix for their anime department, and so I was just reconnecting with him. Just hey, I heard you got a new job. How's it going? Tell me about it. And oh yeah, I'm working on this short film. Yeah, if you're interested, take a look at it. And then the conversation evolved in a way where he's like, "Do you want to pitch an idea to make something? Because we've got like 30 projects we're trying to make." And I was just like,
Wow.
"Really? Yeah, I'd love to. Are you sure?" So, and he was, I'm very, very lucky that he gave me that big chance, because I think getting that first opportunity is always really the hardest.
Yeah.
At some point, I feel like when you cross that line, it has to be like there's a famous saying in investing, the three F's: friends, families, or fools.
Oh, I didn't
That
know
are the
that.
ones that, yeah. And so, he just, I can't
Yeah.
really thank him enough for
Yeah.
that,
I
like being
around what time was that? Because it
that
was
that
so it
was
was
like
yeah,
that
because
was 2000, end of 2017.
17.
Uh,
Okay, so I may have pitched to him also. We had when I was in Marsad, we had this pitch festival, and that I commented that and then we had the opportunity to also present a few ideas for TV series to pitch to Netflix. And then was another rigger, Kusano-san, was,
mhm.
and myself, and another person that was not directly working on Marsa but was a good friend of the producer. So Shinohara-san, that was the head of marketing in Marsa back then.
Mm.
Um, it just took us under his wing, and we prepared 3 projects to pitch. And we had a chance to pitch. I don't remember. It was two persons at that day on Netflix. One I remember, he was Julian or Julian Lai Hong. I don't know if you was there, and another Japanese person, but I cannot remember his name. And we did the pitch very quick, like quick pitch. And sadly, we didn't succeed. We didn't get any. It was, but I may have been around the same time. Sadly, we didn't have we had the scripts and but we didn't have time to prepare really well the graphic part and everything. And yeah,
it's hard. I mean, it's like, I mean, the way that it kind of worked with me is like, I had some ideas in it on my shelf, and I sent him like several log lines, and that started this spark of the project. He's like, I like this one, and it was Eden. And I was like, oh wow, that's interesting. That's been like 20 years old, like on a shelf, waiting to be made. And like, Blue Sky owned the rights, and I got the rights back 10 years later when I was at Lucasfilm. I had a situation where I was in contact with the Fox legal department for another thing not related to me. They had some questions about like a past project that I was involved in, and I was like, "Hey, by the way, I've got this project I've always wanted to make, and you guys are holding the rights." And I just would, it probably would have been fine anyway, but I'm a type of person that I don't like to take any risks. I want to make sure it's all taken care of and everything's buttoned up. And so I convinced them to give me the rights back. So then 10 years later, then I'd have the opportunity to pitch it to Netflix. But yeah, Sakurai was basically like, a mentor, and like, I had to figure everything out. Again, I had to make my own path. I had to find the smartest people I knew that could help me. I didn't know what my weaknesses were, and I had to hire people that could make up for those things I didn't feel like I was good at. So like, one of the things I look for in terms of people on a team that I want to work on is like, people that have good task management skills, good prioritization. They're fast, smart. And so I just, okay, who do I know that can help me do that? So I started there on the production management side. One of the people and one of the people that I asked was Kanako Shirosaki, who is she's like head of a production at Quebec right now. There's another person named Irene Chung who was working at Google at the time, maybe. Yeah. And there was Hiromi Hasegawa, who was a translator based in Tokyo, who I'd known. And so basically I asked them to help me as a starting point. And Hasegawa-san had lots of contacts in the industry. I had contacts in the industry. So we all worked together to figure out this puzzle. And, we had like, and the way that it kind of worked is like, Sakurai would be like, okay, you've got a month to figure this out if you're going to do this. And so I'm like, okay, I'll do it. I just made it happen. Like, okay, I'll ask Kawamoto-san. Okay, yeah, he agreed to do it. And Kawamoto-san was like the founder of Bones and character designer in Cowboy Bebop. So he's a friend. Like, so I had these relationships that I made over 20 years, and like, and it wasn't like a huge project. It was, it wasn't too complex. So I could ask, hey, can you help me out a little bit here? So he helped me out. And I asked a bunch of studios in Japan on the 2D side, but unfortunately they weren't available. It was hard to get. So I kind of like, I don't know how it happened, but CGCG reached out to me and kind of said, hey, I hear that you're pitching a project for Netflix, and would you be, and I'm like, yeah. And like, and I said, do you guys want to bid for it? And they're like, yeah, we would. And I was like, wow, I didn't even think to ask you guys, because I thought like, I'm not really famous or anything. I didn't think you guys would, because they typically do like big Hollywood productions like Star Wars and Troll Hunters. I thought like they wouldn't. It just didn't occur to me that was a possibility. And so yeah, so I asked my friend, also Wolf Smoke, who they did Kung Fu Cooking Girls. I asked him to help out in the art direction and the line art on all the backgrounds. I asked Ide-san was an introduction through Hasegawa-san. who happened to be available at the time. And so we were just putting all these pieces together and trying to figure out like, okay, logistically, how are we going to do this? And then we got the writer, and I asked. That was through a referral through Dai Sato, who is a screenwriter that I know, who worked on Ghost in the Shell Salem Complex. So yeah, I just basically used all my connections that I had and figured out, okay, and then I had to learn how to do things like, okay, how do I budget? How do I
Mm.
schedule for things? Like, what are the other things I need, like insurance and the agreements? I had a lawyer that I knew who
Yeah.
has lots of Hollywood
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah,
So
this
he
is
was
the things
giving
that
me advice.
you don't think
Yeah.
when you imagine that from outside. Like you need a lawyer, you need an
Yeah,
insurance,
accountants. Oh, we need
yeah, things
accountants
like
as
that. Like,
well. Oh my gosh, there's so much stuff that I just didn't really even realize that needed to be done. And so after that, especially Eden, I was like, man, I've got so much respect for producers now. There's just so much stuff that they have to handle. And sometimes that's distributed across several people, but like I had to do every single aspect of the producing part. So, and then I had a great team of people to support me that were really smart and talented that really helped keep me on track, helped keep the production on track. And yeah, it was a great team of people. And Ide-san was a fantastic director. The writer, it was fantastic. And it was just like it was just it was a really good experience. And Ide-san especially was just so open, and he was like responsible and like timely, and he was just so great to work with. So we just and we pulled a great team together. We tried to make the best story that we could. I learned a lot about producing. I learned like, in America, one thing I learned too in that process is that um in America it's very producer driven, where the producer gives notes to the creatives and you have to like follow those notes. We're paying you, so you have to do what we say, like that's just always the creative,
yeah,
the conundrum of the creative is like,
yeah,
I need the
that's
money, please give me the money, but let me do what I want to do. Well, no, you can't do what you want to do because I paid the money, I'm taking the risk.
so that's
Yes.
also the title of showrunner. I think it it's something more
Yeah,
accurate to this like kind of production, because you run the show, you say.
yeah, I think it's basically a way to give maybe the producers more power over the directors. I think, I don't know, like
It sounds like that.
it's definitely something that's come up, and technically I'm showrunner, but one thing that I learned in the way that Japan works is, or at least the people I work with, you have to let them do their job. You can give them suggestions that you think might help, but you can't force them to do something they don't believe in. And you have
Mhm.
to like step back and let them do their job. So it's tricky because on one hand I have this financial responsibility and I take that very seriously, and I want it to be a big hit.
Mhm.
Certainly I'll deliver, but I see the producers' goal really is deliver on time, on budget, and then support the creators, and not try like be there, support them, give advice and suggestions, but like at the end of the day, respect their role, and hopefully they'll respect your role. And so I sort of learned that like I had more feedback that I wanted to give. There were situations like on the animatic, for example. I remember the first animatic meeting with the director, and I had so many notes to give, and then he was like, I'll do this one thing. I was like, oh, really? Yeah. So then I realized, you know what? Okay, I understand how this works. Okay, yeah, and I learned that in Japan, it's not like it's kind of a faux pas to like tell the director to change a lot of things at the animatic stage. That's their job. That's what they're supposed to give you. So don't like sort of like insult their craft by telling them what to do.
I see.
So I learned that. And then I decided from that point on, I'm just going to focus on the producing part because
Mhm.
I need to really be good at that and learn how that works and then support the creative. So I tried to, that was after that moment, I remember I was like, okay, that's going to be my focus. And then, yeah, you have to like earn the respect too from the creatives. Like if you haven't like made something
Mhm.
that you've written or directed that they loved, it's hard for them to want to listen to what you have to say. So I learned, yeah, it was a learning experience for sure.
Yeah, it's I've been slightly different, of course, but yeah, sometimes I felt like um like trying. from the point of view of rigor or design of yeah, sometimes also it's we try to negotiate sometimes some designs or things like that, to
Oh yeah,
make it,
like
because
yeah.
maybe this armor is not that articulated as you imagine. Maybe we should, if we don't want to make it this part flexible, maybe we should change the design a little bit or adjust this part, or and
Yeah.
it's I can imagine from the
Yeah.
other point of view. But yeah, I think every step on the process, it's a bit yeah, slightly different than maybe other like parts in the world maybe. But from my
Yeah, I
experience.
definitely think like if having worked in the studios, like the Hollywood system is very producer executive driven
Hmm.
from the studio, and you have to take those notes and you have to apply
Hmm.
them, and everyone's kind of used to that. That's the status
Hmm.
quo. But I think Japan, at least like I said, I don't know, the people that I work with, it seems a bit more auteur focused, and like the
Yes.
director, everyone has their job and they do their job and they execute on the. You're supposed
Yeah.
to trust them, like yeah. So like and like another thing I found too is like something in America, often you might have constant reports or checks like,
Hmm.
how are we doing? Like in America or Western, productions, I feel like it's okay if we're not if there's a delay, just tell us and then we'll try to figure it out on the back end scheduling
Hmm.
wise. Okay, so you're a week late here, so let's take a week out here. We'll just balance it. It's not a big
Hmm.
deal. Whereas like in Japan, I found that it at least my yeah like there's a lot more pre-planning. It's careful thought, careful planning, lots of details in the beginning, and then people just execute on that information, and they want lots of specific
Yes.
information, and then they just execute it. It's like it's not, and if someone says they're going to deliver on this day, it will be delivered on that day or very close to it. It will. It's not. Yeah, like the verbal, what is said is very important. So if I say I'm going to do this, I will do it. If I say I'm going to deliver on this day, I will deliver. Or sometimes it goes
Yes.
over a little bit, but generally it's always like on target. And if they are late, they will take the responsibility to deliver it, or
Hmm.
they will take personal responsibility if something goes wrong. So it's different. Definitely, yeah. There's, yeah, it's very different than what I'm used to in the West. But I like it. I actually, I want to embrace how the system in Japan works. I want to be respectful to that. There's like lots of history, a lot
Hmm.
decades of animation production that have
Yes.
happened in Japan. And so they have their way of doing things. So I want to respect their way of doing it, and also learn from it. And yeah, there's been things I really like about it. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think it, like the professionalism for me, it's something that it's I noticed like a huge difference. I'm not saying like in other places, but my experience in Spain, I had my own studio, and I had like stories that it's maybe I tell you another day with a beer,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
crazy, really like I have my own studio doing animation. Someone doesn't show up one day,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
things like
Oh yeah.
that, and we like crazy stories, like really like
It's
completely
yeah.
not taking any responsibility about the project or the task or anything. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. People, I feel like generally, Japan has this group mentality, and also
Yeah.
like you could lose respect from your
Mm-hmm.
peers if you do something. So this like there's this invisible force that kind of keeps
Mm,
everybody in check. And also it's true for crime and other
yeah,
things in Japan as well. And I think
that's
that's what makes Japan so unique in the
yeah.
world and why it's so safe. And so that yeah, people have a sense of accountability and responsibility. And
Yeah.
so I really respect that. Not to say that things can go wrong in Japan too, but like generally I found, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, like they
when you
say
have that
here,
trust, yeah.
everything will have a merito and demerito, you know.
Oh, what? I haven't heard that. What is
It's
it?
a merito and demerito. It's like pros and cons. It's
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
it's but
But
yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm living here. I really like living here. I don't want to move, but
yeah, I like living. I liked. I mean, I'm in New York, but yeah,
it's
I travel to Japan quite often. I usually go like 5 to 6 times a year because of my job and everything. But Yeah, it's the there are definitely pros and cons, yeah, to both sides, but I just have some logistical things
Mm.
with family and stuff that make me have to kind of stay in this area. But yeah,
Yeah.
like ideally it would be easier for me if I lived in Japan. But yeah, but you
Come.
just make it work. You just make it work though. I mean,
Yeah.
that's making your own path. Yeah, even when it seems impractical, you just have to like find a way.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely it's and yeah, there is a lot of I mean, there's a lot of studios here, a lot of projects, a lot of interesting things happening. And also the one thing I really love of studios here is there is not that feeling of a competition between the studios. Indeed, there is a
Yeah,
kind of like ecosystem between the studios, and I found that fascinating. Like employees, because here in Japan, if you are like full-time employee, sometimes it's for life. I mean, people go out
yeah,
from university, start in the studio and retires in this studio, but sometimes the studios, obviously, you don't have this flow of work always to feed the machine.
yeah.
So
Because a studio is a very high overhead. It's hard to sustain financially.
so sometimes
Yeah.
people from other, I remember in anima, people from other studios came to work in
Yeah,
or
they
to do
lend out
comp, or
people.
yeah,
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, they
like
do that.
collaboration,
Yeah.
and the other way. And it's these people from this studio is coming here to help us with this because we have this peak and we don't. And also the texture, the on on the connections for the projects, you realize like some projects, they become like many studios collaborating together because or they don't have like big project, or they go for any reason that they need to grow, so they start to separate the project in
Mm.
small units per studio, and they organize that, and then it's a very collaborative, and it's super, I mean, better than me, it's super complex to do it with one studio. Imagine if you need to
Yeah.
split the work and coordinate everything between several studios. It's and this is, I will say, it's not the norm, but it's
Oh
super
yeah. I
usual.
mean,
Like
if you look at the credits of a lot of anime, you see all the different studios, and like if you watch the show Shirobako,
mhm.
that's a great a great view of the traditional Japanese anime studio. It's like that's it's funny. There's actually a character in there that's called forgot the name, but it's like Sakurai. It's actually modeled after my friend that I used to work with at IG. So
Are
it's
they?
like it's kind of funny. Yeah, it's a really for me it's very nostalgic because I was in IG and it felt it was just like that. And 2D animation, one of the definitely the advantages of that is that it's easier to work with other studios like that. You can have them do the key animation over here, and it's
Mm.
more yeah, it's less technical, so it's
But
easier to
I'm
do
talking
that
about
stuff.
3D also. Like we did. I like a lot. Like I remember, for instance, doing these Monster Strike projects, and we did a bunch of seasons, but there were other studios involved, and we exchanged the assets from and and things like that.
Wow, like they use the rigs? They use
It,
the same rigs?
yeah. Well, here I'm gonna plug M Gear. We were using M Gear in
Okay.
all the
Oh, okay,
studios,
okay.
so it was easy. But we,
Okay, well if that's yeah, if you guys use the same rigs, then that's
yeah,
easier. Yeah.
we were using the same rig, so um, but it was super nice because oh, I have this
Yeah.
character in this episode, and we had
Just load it up.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah,
That
it's
I mean, that's good for us, and it's good for the client because you don't pay the overheads to
yeah,
re-rig
yeah.
or even sometimes remodel the characters from
Remodel.
season to
Yeah.
season because uh, one season is done by one studio and the other for the other. I think
Yeah. Yeah. For the
and
look, yeah. I remember, yeah, it's always a big question. Do you re-rig, remodel, or
yeah,
just use the same asset? But yeah.
yeah, we
Yep.
we did some uh, like tweaks, but
Oh,
you know,
okay.
but
Yeah.
honestly, I found that kind of approach, it's very smart for in all fronts, to be honest, because
Yeah.
it's
Assets
it's
build are like a big chunk of the budget for
yeah,
computer production.
absolutely. So yeah, and that was like just going back to to your work.
Mm.
So after Eden, you work on Visions. Can you
Yeah.
explain a little bit what how was your involvement there? How well how it happened? Because I mean, this is I watched I watched it only once. I want to rewatch it again. But it was like super cool. All the short films, different
Oh
directors,
yeah.
different styles. Like this kind of omnibus kind of thing. I love it.
Yeah, I was like, growing up in the 80s and 90s, there were like these anthologies called like
Hmm.
Neo Tokyo and Robot Carnival,
Yes.
which had at the time, they were young up and coming directors at the time, but then they would go on to become like the stars of the industry. And
Yes.
so I always loved that format. And I'm obviously a huge Star Wars fan. And, even when I was working on the Clone Wars,
Hmm.
when I started at Lucasfilm Animation, I was like the seventh employee for the Clone Wars
Hmm.
series. And it was even before Dave Filoni was there. And we were just trying to figure things out. Then he came on board shortly thereafter. But one thing we instantly kind of connected with was a mutual love for Japanese animation, Japanese film. He's a huge like Godzilla fan and Ultraman fan. Like he really knows deep that part. Yeah, he has a very deep knowledge of that whole like the kaiju films and
Hmm.
just amazing. So we always like got along well and because we shared that mutual interest. And then I've always, said to him many times, like, gosh, I wish we could make a Star Wars anime or something like this. And so I would always I remember just also reaching out to Dave and saying, hey, I'd really love to work on something like anime and Star Wars. And so he helped reconnect me with the Lucasfilm team again, who were there now. Like there were different people that are
Hmm.
there, but I knew a lot of that. I had a history with Lucasfilm, and so they, after some initial conversations, they decided to make, they had an idea to make Visions anthology, and they thought that working with Japanese animation studios might be a good first step for that project. So they I was kind of a good fit. I kind of happened to show up at the right time, and they're like, would you be interested in producing this for us or working with us to produce it? And I was like, yes, definitely. This is like my dream. So I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and finally, yeah, this amazing opportunity. And so my role on that was basically to go to Japan, or make a list of recommended studios, use my network of connections that I've made over the years, and work with the team at Lucasfilm. And so we were sort of like a bridge between all the studios and the Lucasfilm team, and we would handle all communications, all translations. We would, do all the producing side of things,
Hmm.
and yeah, we just got it done, and it was so much fun. But it's really hard to do anthologies because like it's like making a television series, but each episode is being made at the same time.
Hmm.
And although sometimes there might be some slight offset depending on the studio's schedule, but yeah, it was hard, but I love challenges, and it was fun. So we came up with ways to internally make that easier to manage communication wise, because it's hard to track. You're tracking like 8 or 9 different studios. And if you imagine, like, usually, for example, an agreement between a studio and the studio, or I mean, like the animation studio and like the client takes
Hmm.
time. There's lots of back and forth. So multiply that by 8, or number of studios, like it's just super complicated. So, but like I mean, luckily we have a really really good team at Cubic, and so we were able to manage all that stuff. And it was great. Yeah, I loved. It was just so exciting to see people like just tapping into people's passions and seeing what they came up with. That was so exciting. Like when we saw, like one of the first drawings we saw was from The Duel, which is Okazaki-san, who that
Hmm.
was the first short, and that immediately we were like, everyone was like, "Wow, that's so cool!" Oh man, but I think like when you thought Star Wars anime, I think in the beginning, nobody really
Hmm.
knew what that meant or what that would look like
Hmm.
because it hadn't been done before. So,
Yes.
and there's so many different styles of anime, so
And
we weren't quite sure what would happen.
yeah, and I guess like story wise was something that came from Lucasfilms, or was something that they had like a free range for to pitch his ideas, how they see the Star Wars universe on Japanese anime context. Or
Yeah, so the Visions concept was that basically the creators um are allowed to kind of come up with their own ideas and riff on Star Wars and
mm-hmm,
what inspires them. So it's important. We ideally, I think we like to find people that love Star Wars, are super passionate about it. Like Okazaki-san is a huge Star Wars fan. Our first meeting with him, he had all the Star Wars memorabilia behind him, So those are like we love to find those people, because I think, pouring that passion into the project is really, really important. So yeah, they would come up with the ideas, and Lucasfilm was really so great and supportive and understanding of how Japan worked, and like because I've worked with a lot of different Hollywood studios that have wanted to work with Japan, and it's the Hollywood way of thinking sometimes is a little different and
mm,
not necessarily compatible with the way that Japan works, but to the credit of all the team at Lucasfilm, they were just so supportive, constructive, and they helped guide it, but they also, yeah, they're experts in Star Wars and can help inform the creators. But yeah, they were just really great in terms of respecting the way that Japan works, and I think like the studios were really appreciative of that. It's a very unusual opportunity. Like typically, I would say there's a lot more hands-onness,
mm-hmm.
I think, especially with such a big IP. But yeah, I think the framework allowed for the artist to express themselves, so they're able to take more risks and it wasn't canon, so
Mm-hmm.
they were able to have some more freedom that they wouldn't
It's
otherwise have.
yeah. I would like to see a second season. It's do you know it's
There is, yeah, there is a second season. They've announced the studios actually. There's a uh Spanish studio in there in the
oh
list.
cool. Who? Uh,
It's
maybe I know the studio. Maybe.
I think it's Rodrigo's studio. Rodrigo Blas he made a new studio.
No, I don't know his. I know Rodrigo.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't know him,
Okay, yeah.
but I know. I mean, he's a big name in animation. Yes, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
So
cool.
yeah, that's so there's some Spanish representation on season two. So that's cool.
Cool. That's
But yeah,
amazing.
it's I wasn't involved in the second season. But yeah, I knew about it. Obviously I couldn't talk about it until they
Mm,
announced it. But yeah,
mm.
yeah, it's really cool. I'm very excited for the second season. I think they've got some really great studios, and I'm
That's
really
really nice.
excited. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
really
but
excited to
you know,
see.
that's really cool. I mean, because we have. I mean, I think maybe I mean in Japan there was this omnibus like we talked like there was a robot carnival. It was like magnetic rose. I don't know. It
Oh,
was
that was
called.
Memories. Yeah,
Oh,
that's from
memories. Yeah,
Memories.
sorry,
Yeah, I
magnetic
love
rose
that
was
one.
one of
Yeah,
the. Yeah.
yeah.
Then and
Satoshi
there are
Kon.
a lot
Yeah.
of these ones, and I think was maybe for like maybe Animatrix was maybe the
Yes,
biggest
that was yeah,
like
that's
in
another
the
one.
early 2000s. Was that? I can't
Hmm.
remember the. And now, well, we have also like big like Love, Death and Robots. Of course, this is also big
Yeah.
and really amazing. I tried really hard to get involved in any like to do rigging in any project, but I couldn't get it.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I would love. Actually, I have a story that I would love to make for that. It's all robots, but yeah, I don't know if
yeah,
I ever manage to
yeah.
meet
If
them. I might.
someone it's listening, we
Yeah, if
are
someone's out
interested.
there.
Yeah, exactly.
I
That's a good
think
thing about the
actually
podcast. You never know who is gonna listen.
who might. Yeah, there's. I think I want to say like Jennifer. Jennifer, is it? I'm trying to. She was involved in
Yeah.
Love, Death, and Robots. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, she was a backer on Kickheart. Because I remember
Oh.
meeting her when we went to DreamWorks and we showed
Uh,
Kickheart there. So,
Yeah, yeah. I talked with my friend Jeremy Passarin. He was the rigging soup back then, and he passed me the contact. I can't remember his name. Sorry. He was like the CG soup on Blue Sky to supervise all the projects, and we exchanged a few emails, and I try like look and try to get maybe something for anima. We just like completely like fanboy kind of.
Oh,
Look in
yeah.
this animation studio here in Japan. We prepare. I prepare a reel. I talk with, and I send it. This is what we do, and they like it, and but it didn't no luck.
Yeah.
So,
It's
but it was
probably,
like
yeah.
I really try, like really like you like trying to like ask my friend, like, please can you give me some contact? I want and it was a
Yeah, I
long shot,
remember.
but
I think I remember. Yeah, it was Jennifer Yu Nelson was the person that I think she was a background kick art, but yeah, I think she's involved in the series. But yeah, I think they're up to season. What? How many they've have? Did they make
now
three
they have
seasons already?
three. Yeah,
And I think they're making. I'm sure they're making a fourth one. I think
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
guessing
The,
there's a
yeah,
announcement by
and
now.
I know the good friends of mine, Les, they directed on the first season like 2 or 3 shorts, the alternative stories, the yogurt who conquered the world, and I
Mm.
can't remember it was, and the robots. This was for
Mm.
my friends. Why you didn't call me?
Yeah, it's
Or
cool. That's like, yeah, it's like, I've again, I think I've always one of the things that drew me to Japanese animation was that they treated it like a cinema art form. Like it was a
Mhm.
medium, not a genre. So like
Yeah,
it could, because I still to this day I would say almost just love I just love live action film. Like I just love series. That's probably the majority of what I watch. And I simply just want to make animation that is like that
yeah,
is it's the same thing, but it just happens to be animated. Like,
yeah.
and
For
I
me,
feel like yeah.
yeah, if we can discuss on these topics, I'm very interested on that. I don't make any distinction that to start. So for me, a good movie, it's a good movie. But as a medium, I found like animation, you can do certain things that you cannot do. It's more poetic, I will say, and
Mm,
it's more you can do things that you can will be really strange in live action, like if you want to certain like to express certain emotions. I mean, if you think like directors like Satoshi Kon, how they transfer, how they do these transitions and from imagination to reality, and many of these
mm,
its movies and things like that. I think it's animation, it's a medium that you can express better certain things, to be honest.
yeah.
Yesterday I was watching in, you know, this movie.com, I think it's called, the service, online service. They have like author movies and indie
Mm,
movies, things like that. They had this short film that is called Wave 98. um I it's not super new. It's a few years back. It's a short film, and I was mesmerized with this short film and the way that he treat like this how you say, like the state of mind of the protagonist, and the oniric parts and everything,
mm,
and it was mixing with some live action footage, some photo
mm,
collage, 2D animation, really like in the vibe of Mind Game,
mm.
like, and that it was like something
Yeah.
like, wow, I if I one day I do something, I want to do something like that. Like, just don't care which like kind of material you use, everything is good.
Yes. Yeah. And I do think, yeah, there are certainly things that you can do in animation that are just very difficult to do in live action. I think maybe like the one difference that I've heard from directors who have done both is that it's I think more there's more things that could happen with the actors on the
Oh
set.
yeah, the
Like
serendipity, like,
there's sort of a yeah, there's accidents that happen as
yeah,
a result, or there's physical limitations with the set that cause you to make a choice that actually ends up being really important. Like
yeah,
Jaws is famous that way, like you have to there are these physical limitations, but also I think there's a lot more interaction with the actors and what they like.
yes.
Not, I mean, voice acting certainly it's very, very important. I don't mean to like
Mm,
belittle that in any way, but like I think there's just something
yeah,
about physically in the moment in the set with the other actors
Mm,
that causes. I think that's the big difference, I think.
yeah,
But in terms of
definitely.
visual
That's
expression, visual language, like yeah, animation can give you, can do a lot of really cool
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I was I'm following this director Saba. I'm gonna butcher his name. Saba Sibomik or Sibovic. He's he's doing these short films now with Unreal, and he was talking about how doing like very different because like doing the direction on with Unreal and real time and all these things, it's more like you can get these errors or mistakes or some things that are more fluid in the process. So but he was doing a process that I'm personally I'm not like big fan of motion capture. That's but
Hmm.
it's I mean it's a taste of animation. So he's doing the motion capture and then all the like camera planning and everything, and it's done after the fact. And these happy accidents that he was saying, like, oh, I put the camera by mistake to the floor, but I found a nice reflection and thing, and it was and I incorporated to the film at the end, things like that. So you have this kind of ground. So you have the and talking the other day was with Raf and Sobin, I think like some time ago, we were talking like this. You have the scene base kind of animation or that is close to live action, where you have a scene, a environment where, and you put your camera and you work around that, and you have the shot based kind of animation where you plan everything to look nice to this
Yeah.
camera point of view. So
Yeah.
and then you have something in the middle, no? So but this obviously when it's shot based 2D thing, you cannot, oh, can you change the camera a little bit or things like that. And the other day I was watching or one of I think it was a podcast with the animation or one of the animation supervisors for Jibaro from Alberto Mielgo. They do the
Hmm.
animation that works in every single angle, and it work. And even if you see the making of, it's really well planned. Or what I see, the animatics and everything, it's like. But even doing that, the animation looks like they can put the camera in any place and it's gonna work. So it's not animating to
Yeah.
the camera. Even this keyframe animated, that's crazy.
Yeah. Was
And they
that
do
did
that,
they
and
not
it's
use any motion capture? Did they use motion capture?
no.
No, really.
They
Goodness.
did footage reference with actors and with dancers and choreographers, but
Ah, I
it's
see.
not. And it's very important at that point because they have this kind of still realistic, but they have this feeling of um stylization and the thing that make difference. I don't know how it's,
Hmm.
but it's not the same, and
Yeah,
yeah.
like sometimes people will do the motion capture for reference as if they were shooting film, like as a reference for the animation, but it's not like it's not tied to it. You can change it if you
Mhm.
want, but it's like a
Yeah,
starting point. Like Orange
yeah,
works that way.
yeah. We did a lot that in anima. We have this big motion capture stage, and we were
Hmm.
basically every day it was like doing motion capture, and then was a lot of work over the this motion capture to stylize the animation. And well, depending of the shot was full keyframe, depending on, I mean, it's a look super fight like 3000 kilometers per hour obviously you can.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was a lot of post process and like kind of balancing the style, but in this case, in the this Alberto Mielgo films, is very explicit. Like when in on every single
Hmm.
interview I read from, or I saw, that is not motion captured. It's just the footage that you can see and reference it as a like.
Wow. Yeah, that's impressive. Yeah. He's super talented, that guy.
I mean, there was
Certainly.
I mean, this short, if I watched it. I really liked it, his previous one, and I had also the luck and pleasure to work also with Leo Sanchez, that is the producer and
Oh, okay.
co-creator of his windshield wiper. But the way that it did the camera work and on this last one, and how you get inside, I don't know, it was like kind of dragging you to the water with the
Oh yeah, yeah. No,
sorry, spoilers.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, some filmmakers they leave you with a certain feeling. They're so powerful, and
Yeah,
you feel like pulled in, and the movie affects you like that. Yeah.
yeah, but
But yeah.
the other one, I mean the I mean, both of these short films before this one, I really like it, but I think the camera work on this one was over the top, was crazy. What?
Yeah, it was awesome. I think like, the hybrid, like I think like the live action, if you look at the two worlds, I think the virtual production, like the stuff they're doing with Stagecraft and
Mm-hmm.
ILM, like I feel like those are kind of the marriage of the two worlds
Mm-hmm.
where you can have the best of both worlds, I think. It's
Yeah,
interesting to see. But yeah, I was a
yeah.
huge fan of like Mandalorian and
Mm-hmm.
Andor, although I don't think
Well,
Andor did a lot of physical on-set stuff, so I don't know how much stagecraft they used on that, but
I don't know,
great
but Andor
shows.
was amazing.
Yeah, I
I
know.
was so decent. Sorry. The book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan was kind of a down for me. Even I like it
Uh,
more Booba, but the Obi-Wan was like, oh, I watch it anyway. I binge every Wednesday here, at least in
yeah,
Japan,
yeah,
like like a religious thing. But still,
yeah.
but Andor, I was like amazed, and the
The writing was just like
yeah, it was. I
it's so
mean,
amazing. Those are the
it's just
characters.
a good
Yeah,
story that turns out it's in the Star Wars universe, but I mean, if you remove
yeah,
Star Wars universe, it's still amazing.
yeah. That's was yeah. That was one of my favorite shows of the year. I love the characters.
Yeah.
The writing is just so phenomenal. Like that, the monologue
Y-
where I forgot that he talks about sacrifice.
Yeah.
I forgot the name of the character, but and I should know it, but but yeah, it was such an amazing monologue. I mean, so many great lines.
Oh,
Oh,
the
just so good. Mm.
The
Skarsgård, yeah, yeah,
Skarsgård, yeah, he's an amazing actor. The you know, funny thing. And spoilers alert if somebody didn't watch it. I think it was the eighth episode when he's in jail or something. I don't know which one is. I thought it was the end of the season. So
yeah, yeah.
I don't know why. I check it out the next Wednesday. I didn't saw the episode. Maybe I checked it too early or something. I don't know. And I thought, oh, that was the end. Yeah, makes sense. It's there. It's a big
Yeah,
cliffhanger
cliffhanger.
on.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and then another day, I'm watching something else on Disney Plus. I see there are more episodes. Like what? It's like Christmas.
Yeah, I
But
actually,
a
it's
couple of
funny.
months
You thought,
later, like
yeah,
no jokes.
I thought it was the same. I thought, yeah, I thought that because I feel like it's never clear sometimes exactly how many episodes. You have to go look online to see how many episodes there were. So I
Yeah,
wasn't sure, but yeah, I remember. Yeah, the characters. It's called Luthen. Luthen is Rael. Rael is the guy that
yeah,
made that wonderful monologue. It was just amazing. But yeah, Stellan Skarsgård, he's
yeah,
did an awesome job on that.
yeah. And he has. I mean, and
But it's just, yeah, I love that. I love those type of shows. Like that's like my right at my alley. Like Game of Thrones, I really liked. House of Dragon.
I didn't watch that here in Japan. I watched Game of Thrones, but it was on. They had like a arrangement with Amazon, but then the House of Dragons didn't. I think they have it with another provider, but I couldn't
Oh,
watch it.
yeah.
Um I need to
But yes,
dive
yeah.
in.
It's yeah. I enjoyed it. Yeah, but
Yeah, I
so much
think
to watch.
yeah. Yeah,
But
the
yeah.
here at sadly HBO it's not well you have this other service called Unext that they have some but not all I think. And
Oh,
do you
yeah.
watch the latest, the Peripheral, the one from Amazon?
What is it called?
The Peripheral. It's based on William Gibson
No, no, I
novels
haven't seen
also.
that.
That's super good. I really This is the last one I watched. That was I was really in, and I really like it. I'm a big fan of William Gibson novels, of course, but I
Oh,
didn't read that
cool.
one
Yeah,
actually. I was kind of
check
like,
it out.
uh, kind of like I started watching it, and some moment I should I watch it? Should I read first the novels and hold? But I couldn't resist, so I
Yeah.
watched it straight.
That's cool. I'll
Yeah.
check it out. Yeah. My latest show is Last of Us. I think that's the one I'm kind of been
I
watching.
can again HBO. I don't have it, but
I know it's true. I feel sorry because
yeah, I didn't
there's a
play
lot
the
of good
games
shows
either.
on
I don't have
there.
the
Yeah.
PlayStation, so
I
it's
did
kind
play
of
the
like,
first game, yeah. I don't play a lot of games, but that was one of the ones I finished and enjoyed. That and the Resident Evil, I play a lot of those. Those are the ones I usually like always play when they come out,
oh, I'm
the new
looking
version.
forward for this new you know, the
Four, Resident Evil 4, I think that's the
yeah, the did you met Miyamoto-san when you visit Marsa?
um I don't know. I might have it's very possible if he was there. What's his
Yeah,
role? Is he the
yeah,
what's his role at the company?
it was the producer, or
Okay,
like
that sounds
I
familiar
remember
then. I
not
yeah.
exactly the title, but he left Marsa and established his own studio called Keviko. It's actually it's a bit similar, the name.
To Cubic. Oh,
No,
huh.
it's not the same. It's a let me, I don't want Miyamoto-san
See
is
if I
here.
can find it.
It's Keviko Inc. And they
Yes, I know. Actually, I know about yeah, K Biko. I saw that because
yeah,
I was like, it's kind of
the
a little bit like Cubic,
l-
but yeah, I know.
the logotype, it's like a fox with many tails. It's very nice.
Oh,
And they did this well, actually, we did Biohazard Vendetta at Marsa, and after he did this Biohazard for Netflix. Or it's for Netflix. A few episodes, and now they like last week or 2 weeks ago, they released this a new trailer for Biohazard, Dead Island, or Resident Evil in the West, I guess.
okay.
Sorry, it's here.
Cool.
It's
They've got a cool design. I like their yeah,
it's
it's
pretty
funny
nice.
because like originally we were called 8-bit Pictures, and so I didn't know this, but there's an 8-bit studio in Japan.
Oh,
So I was like, oh, I got to change the name to Cubic. Okay. So I changed it and we became Cubic. And then later I saw there's Cubico. I'm like,
it
oh
is
man.
I
It's
think
like
it's not Cubico. It's Keviko. I think it's
Cubico. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's like a slightly similar. I mean, it's not, it's okay, but but so I was like, oh, yeah.
I did. They doing really nice stuff, and I have like
Oh, that's
some
cool.
school. Well, everybody there, I think, is co-worker from Marsa, and
Okay,
yeah, it
okay.
was
Yeah, I do
super
know
cool.
about I do know about them. Yeah.
Mm.
I've seen them
Yeah, they
before.
keep an eye on this studio. They're really on. I mean, this high quality kind of game cinematic style, cool movie. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'll check it out.
But this I don't. I mean, this is motion capture, for instance. But I like that.
Yeah,
What?
because they're just recreating kind of film, I guess, at that
Yes,
point.
exactly.
Yeah.
So there. I think it's well used. But when it's for animation, I think it's a bit
Yeah.
jarring. I don't know. Yeah.
I like that work. I enjoy those types of shows. I also like they made like a I like Gantz. I remember Gantz did a
Oh, the CG one, super
PG
cool
one.
that one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I was like, wow. I mean,
It
gosh, darn
was.
it. Like,
It's only one, huh? I want to.
yeah.
I want to see more of this. I like this kind of show. They have also the live action, but the live action, it looks like
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
I
know
like
why. I think it's
I
better
was just
in
remember watching it. I was like, wow, this is actually pretty good. I
and
enjoy this.
oh, and this, and now, and I'm just gigging here, but do you watch the I think it's a production IG, the one, the oh, how it's called, the guy, I don't never remember the guy of the mangaka. Is the guy who does all the horror manga thing,
Oh
the
yeah, they did
Uzumaki.
announce that recently. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
I
remember what that
bench
was
watch
called.
this. It's super good. Each
Oh,
episode
cool.
it's slightly different, the style, and it's like a self. No, you have some episodes that repeat some of the characters, but in general there are self-contained episodes, and
Oh,
they're
okay.
really good. I really, really, really good. I
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll check that out. I think it was, I saw that when it came out, I believe it was like in the top 10
Yeah. If
on
you like
Netflix when it
horror,
came out.
yeah, it's
I will look it up. I wonder if their set
man,
production is listed anywhere. Um, I'll check it out. Yeah, that sounds good.
yeah,
Well, looking it up, but yeah.
that's
So,
cool.
but yeah, like Visions was like an amazing experience. Eden kind of opened the doors for Star Wars Visions, and then now we're continuing to produce content. We have a project with Netflix that I'm working on that
Oh,
hasn't been
cool.
announced yet, and then we have two other projects for Disney Plus.
Wow.
So we've got currently three projects, and then we're other projects in development
Very, very
potentially.
curious. Not announced yet, but
So
I'm
yeah,
gonna keep my eyes close to your feeds on the
yeah.
social media.
Yeah, as soon as I can't wait to announce it. Yeah, but yeah, I
Uh,
think it's gonna be pretty cool.
that's amazing, man. I'm yeah. Well, thank you so much for all the time. Just maybe for wrapping the recording, I want to
Hmm.
ask just some quick questions, rapid fire questions. Like, okay, like favorite movie,
Oh, okay. Favorite movie, The Graduate
The
with
Graduate.
Dustin Hoffman.
Okay, so next,
Because
okay.
yeah, because the reason why that's my favorite. I mean, I could go
Mm.
on and list a lot of other movies, but the reason why I choose that one
Mhm.
usually is because that was the first movie that I saw where I started to understand visual storytelling and the
Mm.
storyboard, like the way that the shots are composed, the colors, the outfits that people are wearing, the cinematography. That's what I felt like for the first time. Oh, I'm starting to learn about the language of film was through that. And I was in like it was like I think it was in elementary school. I just remember very clearly watching and being like, "Wow, that really it changed the way I looked at movies." So that's why.
Oh, I need to rewatch. I watched it, but long ago, and
Yeah,
it's a bit fade in my mind.
I love movies from the '60s, '70s, '80s, and '90s. Are kind of like my area. I like.
I watch everything. I don't have a predilection for the eight. Yeah, there's a okay. So next, it's if on this podcast, if you can choose one guest for like one person to come to the podcast, who will be? I just gonna try to reach out if it's possible. I just want to start this kind of
Oh,
chain
I
of
would say Mike Ardias. Yeah,
my
he's
guy.
maybe the one.
I may have some contacts that know him. I will try to. Definitely, it's someone I want to also to
Yeah,
talk
and
with
if you
him.
need help, I can introduce you guys. But
Oh,
yeah,
amazing! Yeah, for sure.
he's like a
He,
legend.
he's still in Japan, or
I don't know. I don't know. I think he's in Japan, I think, but I haven't chatted with him in a while. But I think he's there. Yeah.
you know the funny thing? It's my older son. I used to bring him on Saturdays to Spanish class in here in Tokyo, and I'm not sure, but I think his son was also going there, and but I was not 100% sure, so I didn't dare to say anything. But it was like, if I get it in the show for sure, I'm gonna ask him,
Yeah,
was
yeah,
you, was your son going there?
yeah.
Because I, but yeah, I was.
I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if that
Yeah.
was him. Yeah.
And well, I guess last question. It's if do you have like one advice for someone who wants to start producing animation?
Yeah, I think, don't get discouraged. It's hard to do. Keep trying. It's like it's an endurance race, not a sprint in life. So just keep following your passion and make your own path. and just keep trying. Eventually, something, a door will open up, or maybe someone that you knew from 10 years ago, will be helpful or believes in you. And just, yeah, just try to make your own path and try to just, I think maybe just one bit of advice is just try to do the thing that makes you happy at work, and not don't worry too much about the logistics of finances or things like this. I know it's like very practical. It's just, things will all, I feel like if you really truly follow your passion, things just kind of fall into place, but you have to be really, you have to really follow it without fear. It's sort of like that leap of faith in Indiana Jones Last Crusade. It's like, you know,
Very
it's
visual.
like you kind of gotta just make the leap, and that's scary, but just go for it. And the worst in that, when I had the opportunity to do Eden and quit my job, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go for it. If I fail, at least I can die knowing that I tried,
Mhm.
so it's like
Yeah.
I feel like it's okay to fail. That failure is an important part of the process. I value those past experiences where I failed because it helped me learn. So yeah, don't,
Yeah.
it's always just keep trying, never give up, and then make your own path.
Thank you so much, Justin.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome.